And from Cincinnati to Phoenix, you have to drive through St. Louis. And we knew there's a team coming in 2023. And there was like bad traffic. I don't really remember, somewhere downtown you have to drive through. And, my wife and I was just, St. Louis, that could be a cool thing if that ever, worked out. So I don't know what made us say that, but we looked at the odds. I was like, hey, St. Louis, they have a team. Let's see what happens.
Welcome to a new edition of the City Voice podcast. I am joined, as always, by an extremely special guest. Today, we introduce Ben Lundt. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. You have a nice view here. Always wanted to be up here, so I'm happy to be on a podcast.
We always want to be down there on that beautiful grass. It's one of the last beautiful days of St. Louis fall weather. We're going to talk a little bit about your background, where you grew up. We're going to talk about how you got into the game, some of the crossovers, some of the people that you met along the way, and like really get an understanding of what you've been doing with the squad this year. Obviously some great comments coming from Bradley about your leadership skills behind the scenes. So we'll crack in to the podcast. Ben, where did you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up I grew up in Berlin, not really in the heart of Berlin, but West Berlin, if anybody cares where I grew up. About 2 train stations from the Berlin Olympic Stadium. Obviously a lot of history, a lot of culture in Berlin. So it was a great place to grow up in. And then I was fortunate enough to play for 4 years for my hometown team, Hertha Berlin. Again, 2 train stations down the road, and I was in the Olympic Stadium. My highlight basically was being in the squad for my hometown team for Hertha Berlin. That was a cool experience. That's how I grew up.
What was family life like for you growing up?
Yeah, I mean, family life and the way you grow up in Berlin is just different. The way people know it in America. I've never lived in a house my whole life. I always lived in an apartment, and that's just what you do. In Berlin, there are no houses. Maybe there's some houses on the edge of the city, but you live in an apartment building, and that's normal for us. So when I try to talk to friends or my wife here, I try to explain to her how I grew up. She's seen it now because she's been a couple of times, in my hometown. It's just a little bit different, no house, but I spent a lot of time outside. Friends, met them spent a lot of time, on little soccer fields in Berlin around the city. So I think I had a great childhood, yeah.
Did you break the pattern when you moved to St. Louis? Did you think, they've got a lot of big houses out here, or are you still in an apartment?
Yeah, now I'm in a house, actually. When I first came to America, I couldn't have imagined really one day not to live in a big city. I always thought I'm from a big city. I always need the big city. So I always looked at cities like New York, Chicago, these big cities. I always felt home when I visited them. And now I completely changed. I've been here now for 7-8 years. I want my space. I don't want to hear any neighbors. And now I transitioned into a house, and I'm quite happy there.
House guy now, I love it.
Yeah.
So Germany's obviously got incredible football culture. It's all around you, like it's the number one sport in Germany. But who in your family inspired your passion for soccer?
Yeah, it's a good question. My dad. The answer is my dad. My dad was a goalkeeper, not a really good goalkeeper. He played, I would say, Sunday league soccer, and he was always a goalkeeper. And from the moment I can start thinking, maybe I was 3-4 years old, I was behind his goal. And I just loved watching him. Back then, I thought that I'm watching Champions League. Realizing now it was just Sunday soccer, but a lot of fun. My dad was a goalkeeper, and I just, developed that passion for that position. And then, I would say early on, it's probably better to spend as much time on the field as a goalkeeper. Nowadays, I changed pretty much very early into a goalkeeper, and I just loved it. Training with my dad when we didn't have training with a club, and then my dad gave that love back, and so yeah.
Did he support Hertha Berlin?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, we have another bigger team now, unfortunately, Union Berlin.
I've seen them, yeah.
That's the red team with the blue team. They came out of nowhere, I think 3rd division always, and 2nd division, and they've been doing a lot of things right for a lot of years. Hertha has more that stereotype of having more money and spending it not wisely, versus Union Berlin is the fan club. The fans actually physically build their stadium. They had I think at one point they were able to financially invest into the club and literally build the club from nothing to what they are now. Now they're a Champions League team. So that's a really cool kind of fan club, I want to say.
They led the Bundesliga for a chunk of last season, didn't they?
Yeah. It's a cool club, I want to say. But I grew up as them being my rival. I played them in every single club tournament, U17s, U19s, always Union Berlin, and it gets wild because even U17s, U19s, the fans care. So when you have a U17s match against Union Berlin, there's a lot of police, fans come from both sides, and actually the German divisions, they try to schedule them on the same day the first team plays, so that the fans are not coming to these youth games and escalating it there, causing trouble. So always fun to play them. Union Berlin is not my team. I'm Hertha Berlin, but my family. I wouldn't say my family is too soccer crazy, but they were all Hertha Berlin.
So when did you realize that you were going to be a better goalkeeper than your dad, and that there was potential that you might be really good?
Yeah, I feel like that took some time. I always thought, you want to be a professional soccer player. Every child wants that, My mom, on the other hand, was always very cautious. Like, Ben, don't get too excited. Everybody wants to be a professional soccer player. It's do your school, do this, do that, have another plan. Let's not get too crazy. And my dad was always more on the side, why go for it? Why not? And then just over time, when you always make the next team in club level and coaches like you, and we have that special German development team where the best players from every state make a team, and then you play against other state teams, and from that pool they choose like the national team. So I always was in these kind of pools and state teams early on, and I always played in good youth teams in Berlin, really good teams, and then I made the jump to Hertha, and that's when I really started believing, hey, once you make it to Hertha Berlin, which is, I would say,
what was your dad like then?
My dad was ecstatic,
crazy, right?
And I have to say, Hertha Berlin, their first team is in the second division right now, but their youth teams is probably easily top 5 in Germany and one of the best ones in Europe. So once you make it there, you go there, then you can start getting excited. Yeah.
So was it as exciting being there as the dream? Sometimes you're like, I dream of something, and then you get it, and you're like, that's true. It's a bit different.
Yeah, obviously, when you make it to better teams, the competition also gets, much better. So one goalkeeper I was competing with, he's right there. He just transferred back to Hertha Berlin as supposedly a starting goalkeeper. Another goalkeeper went to the second division, is playing there. Another goalkeeper still with Hertha Berlin. Another goalkeeper used to play Champions League and Europe League for Austria Wien. There were a lot of good goalkeepers there, so the competition gets really good. So you just have to fight your way through it. And at one point, I chose America. After 4 years there, I probably had the opportunity to stay there and other opportunities. But then, I chose America, which also was a great decision.
So how did America happen? Because before we get there, you went to a place called Lenore Rhine Bears.
Correct.
I had Alex Langer on the podcast, and he was also there. What's going on here?
Yeah, well, first of all, again, I was 4 years with Hertha. My first year was a U17s where we won the national championship. And then I spent 3 years in a row in the second team, so the U23. So I kind of jumped the U19s. And that was a pretty cool experience because, with 16, 17, you're all of a sudden in a man's soccer team where people earn money and earn their living. So that was a cool experience. But after 3 years, I could have done it another year or two. But I realized, okay, that's not really the dream I was looking for. And I was also in a situation where maybe a goalkeeper from the first team, if he needs minutes, he just plays in front of you and there's nothing you can do. And then somebody told me about America. And then my mom, again, like I mentioned, she always mentioned education, have a plan B, and all those kind of things. And then I looked around a little bit in Germany, I had an offer here, I had an offer there, but it wasn't really what I wanted. And then, again, this America idea came up, and my mom loved that because she thought education is a great option. And I must say, I agreed. And I have so many friends that when the third division, second division didn't really work out, and fourth division, and they've been playing as long soccer as I have been. I just have a degree, and they don't. So I'm happy about this about coming to America. And then again, like you mentioned, I went to Lenoir Bears. Not really a university anybody has heard of or I've heard of. When I first wanted to come to America, I looked at schools like UCLA. Those are the big schools people know in Europe. But that didn't work out. My English wasn't good, so I failed some English tests. And then I went to Lenoir Bears, Lenoir, and played there for a year and skipped these English tests and improved my English, and then was able to transfer to a D1 school.
What did you study?
Well, I have a degree now in sales management.
Sales management?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's also a long story. Long story short, I was in international business, and that didn't work out. Was leaving, then Akron, and being drafted. So I had to a little bit, adjust. And sales management was a degree I could finish.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
and your English is fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
So you've made the decision to move to America. There's a draft system over here. You're part of the Superdraft 2019. I always ask players that are part of these drafts, did anybody tip you off that you were going to get a call, or are you just sitting there like the rest of us waiting to see a name?
Yeah, interesting. I was always at this point, very convinced somebody's going to take me, because I had a very successful college time with Akron. In 3 years, I played all 3 years, and we made it to 2 college cups. Lost one final against a really good Maryland team, and one semifinal college cup against Stanford, an unbeaten in 3 years, unbeaten Stanford team. So going in, I had a very good feeling, but yeah, I had a good idea. The coach from Cincinnati kind of told me, hey, we're taking you. And then I also made a decision going to Chicago. I believe it's the last real draft, was an in-person draft. So it was a cool experience to go there and see this whole show in live. But I knew it was always not easy for me. I'm international. I'm from Germany. It's just tough for anybody on any position, and especially goalkeepers. And yeah, Cincinnati took me, and I am forever grateful for them taking me and really opening that door in professional soccer here in America for me.
How did it feel going into training, like the dream that you've had, that your mum said be careful about? Like you're at a professional club. Like, it's not the full dream, but it's a start. It's a great starting point.
So we did the combine before, which is also, you would say, a lot of pressure, and you play your last college season. You would think it's a lot of pressure. I never had any kind of pressure. I was very convinced about myself, but then going into preseason with Cincinnati, all of a sudden there was a lot of pressure, because they draft you, but they don't sign you immediately.
Right.
So I don't know if many people know that, but I wasn't signed when I started training camp with them. And then always in the back of my head, okay, I need to perform in order to get signed. So that was all of a sudden way more pressure than I have experienced before. But luckily things worked out. They signed me, and I was on a contract with them for 3 years.
Is it hard being a young goalkeeper as part of a draft system, because not many young goalkeepers go straight into the first team? Like, it's, most goalkeepers get their break a lot later on than, your traditional sort of like your wingers or your strikers. Right. Is that is it a different mindset to perform under those circumstances? Yeah,
a little bit, but ultimately I knew it from Germany a little bit, these kind of situations, with being in a second team, first team, and I knew what I had to do. I think it was a good thing from Cincinnati. They loaned me out initially, just get game experience in a professional setting here in the USL in Louisville, and that really did a lot for me as well. Got a lot of minutes, played, and then Cincinnati, was able to see me every weekend. Wasn't too far away. I think maybe 2 hours, Cincinnati and Louisville. They're 2 hours apart. So they came down to a lot of games. They saw me every weekend, and that helped, obviously, me and them for a long-term kind of relationship, yeah.
Did you meet anybody that is now at City at Louisville?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, John Hackworth.
He's part of all these stories.
Yeah, John Hackworth is connected. We go to Portland. He had 3 people coming up to him saying hi. We go to Salt Lake. We go anywhere. We go Toronto. He knows people in every single city. Yeah, very cool guy. I enjoyed playing for him in Louisville. I enjoy now playing for him here in St. Louis, and obviously met Akil Watts there too.
And like when you're going through the loan experience, is there anything that you learned? Did you have like coming away from Louisville? This is what I learned. This is did you have were there any like life lessons that you took from those loan moves? Because you had 2, right?
Yeah, a lot of life lessons. Louisville is usually a team, they don't take many guys on loan. They have, it's a core group of guys that have been together for 5, 6, 7 years. They don't change much, and I think that's why they're so successful. They have a great culture. And I come then from their rival, which at that time they're big. I think they're still big rivals. They're just not in the same division anymore. But they used to be very big rivals. And I come from Cincinnati, from their rival, into the Louisville locker room. And yeah, it took some time for the guys to warm up to me, and vice versa. But I learned a lot. These guys, they were hard on me. They pushed me, but that's ultimately what I needed. And I followed that culture, learned a lot from these guys in Louisville. And earned my starting position in Louisville, and I would say I don't remember 8, 9, 10 games into the season I got injured, and unfortunately didn't return that following year or that year. And then I remember just a really cool thing from John Hackworth. The team was going into the final, the Eastern Conference final, and I wasn't really part of the team anymore because then at that point Cincinnati recalled me, did my treatment, my rehab in Cincinnati, and then John Hackworth called me and invited me to that Eastern Conference final in Indianapolis. And I joined the team back, and they were excited. I was excited, just spend more time with them, and that's something I never forget. That Hack invited me back into the team for that final, even though I wasn't really 100% part of that team anymore.
What did you like about playing under John?
John, first of all, he's a really cool guy. He has always a good relationship with his players. I believe he's a really good coach. We had a good team, we had a good playing style, and we were successful. I think that's why we talk with the guys sometimes. There's no better bonding experience than winning. You can have the best guys in the locker room, your best friends, but when you lose every single weekend, you probably won't remember that season as much as a winning season. So we had a good time there. John Hack was a good coach. Really enjoyed my time in Louisville.
So how does St. Louis come onto your radar? What's the story there?
Yeah, it does have a little bit of a story. I don't think I've ever shared that. Yeah, but why not? Why not now?
It's exclusive. Why not now? City Voice exclusive. Let's share.
No, okay. So my time in Cincinnati came to an end in 2021. That was my last season with Cincinnati. And then what now? I didn't really know. I had some possibilities to go here and there, but nothing really I 100% loved. And then we went to Phoenix, my wife and I. So we packed our things and we drove actually from Cincinnati to Phoenix because we have a dog, and the dog cannot fly. It's a big German Shepherd. I was like, okay, he cannot fly. It's a little scary. We were worried. So we put him in the car and we took a couple of days and drove. And from Cincinnati to Phoenix, you have to drive through St. Louis. And we knew there's a team coming in 2023. And there was like bad traffic. I don't really remember, somewhere downtown you have to drive through. And, my wife and I was just, St. Louis, that could be a cool thing if that ever, worked out. So I don't know what made us say that, but we looked at the odds and was like, hey, St. Louis, they have a team. Let's see what happens. And then, nothing really much more said. And I went to Phoenix. I had a good season there personally. The team wasn't as successful as they used to or as they are now, for example. But I had a good year. And then, that connection maybe with Hack. I mean, obviously they're looking at a lot of options. I was maybe looking a little bit here and there. And then we just somehow found together, yeah.
So what was the offer? For like, how did you speak to Lutz and Bradley, or like how did the move come about? What was
Hack was maybe the connection piece, because maybe Hack said, yeah, I know this guy, and obviously they internally maybe discussed it. So Hack was initially the first one to call and see what where I am at and what I'm thinking, and I had to listen to the situation here. And then I was talking to Lutz, Bradley, Alex. And it worked out. I think it was a good fit, on a character, on the field, off the field. So I always wanted to come here because I was interested in this project. Obviously, I never met Lutz before, but I knew of Lutz. I knew of Bradley. He played in Germany. I knew of Bradley. I saw some guys that I've known, obviously, because I'm German. Some guys played in Germany here. So I was obviously Alex, German goalkeeper coach, that I have a little bit of a, I wouldn't even say an indirect history that we can talk about here in a second. But it just worked out, and I was interested from the first moment and wanted to be part of this project.
So Roman Bürki is Champions League goalkeeper. He's a club DP. How does that factor into the decision making when you're coming here? Because it's going to be it's difficult to usurp a goalkeeper of that experience.
Yeah, no doubt in that, and I think the club was pretty open about that. I was like, okay, yeah, it probably won't be like a 50-50 competition scenario, but that was okay. I was just really keen on this project here, and I was excited to play my role in it. And Roman obviously is playing a good season, no doubt in that. But if he is injured, if he needs a break, whatever, I wanted that role. I was like, hey, I can do a good job if the club needs me. And yeah, again, very interested from the very first moment, and luckily it worked out. And yeah, obviously again with Roman, we were both great relationship on and off the pitch. We're hanging out, and it's a good dynamic. I want to say we both really respect each other. We're joking around, and it's been a good dynamic. When he sees I'm winning my training games, he's a competitive guy, and he wants to win his games. And when this both comes together, the quality in training gets better, and that's ultimately a very good thing.
I was listening to a podcast recently, and English goalkeeper David Seaman said that he always he liked to play next to a good number 2 because they pushed him, whereas Peter Schmeichel, the Manchester United goalkeeper, didn't like to play that. Roman came out last week and said that the training with the goalkeepers was particularly intense. I've watched you train all season. Like, it always seems really focused. What sort of environment do you have as part of your sort of goalkeepers union? Like, how do you see your role, like, working with Roman and Michael?
Like I mentioned, good dynamic in the whole goalkeeper union. We always say goalkeeper union. We always see, we always separate ourselves from the field players, which I think is funny. No, good dynamic. I grew up in Germany. I was, a part of the first team there at the time, for example, where Hertha Berlin was in the Europa League, with good players there. Kalu was there, John Anthony Brooks, American was there. Good players there at that time. So I know that environment of a professional team in Bundesliga. So again, very good dynamic. We try to be really clean in training, and ultimately, us goalkeepers, it starts with us. The whole, training maybe. If our quality is good, ultimately the quality of the whole training session is much better. And again, it's been a lot of fun working with Roman and working with Michael, working with Alex. I think it's a good fit.
Has your game developed this season? Are there parts of the coaching that have changed elements of your game and for the better?
Yeah, of course. I mean, when you work with a guy like Roman, who is undoubtedly very experienced and played at the highest level, of course, you're looking every single training session. It's like, okay, what is he doing? What can I adjust? What is he doing? What's just his style that you cannot copy? Because every goalkeeper has a style. But what can you do to get better? And of course, I've been watching, I've been observing, and I think that has got me better. And you have a goalkeeper coach, a young goalkeeper coach, and Alex, who is very detail-oriented, and he truly wants the best for all three of us. And he's pushing us as well. He knows exactly what every goalkeeper needs, and he tries to really fit that into his training sessions. Of course, maybe on a Friday, if we play on Saturday, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is a little bit more for Roman because he's playing. That's true, but Michael and I, we can always go to him, and we can do individually things with Alex on the side and get better. And we've been doing that all year. And so I can sit here and say, yeah, my game has gotten better.
So you mentioned that there was like a direct relationship with Alex Langer, the goalkeeper coach. Yeah. And he's similar sort of age to you. You're kind of peers. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with Alex and how that came about.
Yeah, so I went to Leno Ryan, like you mentioned, in Hickory, North Carolina, small Division II school. Was a little bit of a cultural shock for me coming from Berlin, and I went to Hickory, and every store was closed at 8:00. It was just a shock.
Yeah.
But looking back at it, I still have friends from that time. I had a great time, and again, that also opened the door for me, because without Leno Ryan, I probably wouldn't have came to America, because it was late in the recruiting process, and I didn't have a school really, because I was looking at Division I schools and I wasn't eligible. So I went to Leno Ryan. I had an okay year. Actually a bad year on the pitch, because I only played 4 games and broke my ankle.
Oof.
So I didn't really play for them. But then I was always connected with their team, because I had a lot of friends on their team. I went to Akron eventually, but I always watched their games the next 1-2 years. And then 1 year, another guy still played that was on the team with me, the second goalkeeper. And then Alex came. And then obviously I heard, German goalkeeper came. Let's see how he's doing. So I was very, very interested on how Alex, I've never talked to him, never met him. But I was just interested, curious on how another German goalkeeper is doing at Leno Ryan. So I always watched their games, was connected with my friends from that school. I wanted to see how they're doing still, maybe their senior year, whatever. So that was funny. I always knew of Alex, and I'm sure Alex has heard of me. Hey, there was a German goalkeeper, 2 years ago. So we've heard of each other, but never met each other.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Bradley went out of his way to talk about you and your leadership skills behind the scenes and the job that you're doing. How did that make you feel to hear that, the crunch end of the season from your coach?
I mean, obviously, put a big smile on my face. Just been trying to push the team and just try to be myself. And, if a coach looks at that and say, hey, he's a good guy, then I've done my part. And that's what I ultimately try to do. And it was really nice from Bradley to recognize that, yeah.
What's your, we're at the end of the seasons, like this is being recorded just before the second playoff game. Like, I'd love to get your view on how the seasons felt for you, like being in the mix every day with the players and the coaching staff.
Yeah, I mean, truthfully, not many people that listening to this have been a professional soccer player. So being a number 2 is not easy. It really isn't, because you still have to do your job, whether you play on the weekend or not. And my role this year was more, I know on a Tuesday that I most likely won't play on Saturday. And that's not easy to do, because you have to find that motivation, and it cannot affect your quality. So it's definitely not an easy thing to do. But first of all, the team is great. I would say I have a lot of, they're not all my teammates. I would say they're all my friends, which is a really good thing that makes you, excited for training the next day. And I found that really good balance of pushing myself with Michael and Roman just in training. We all like a clean training session, and my job just is to be a good guy, helping everybody whatever they need, and try to keep the quality in training high, and give my teammates a good feeling that when I'm in goal, Ben can do it. I try to give the coaching staff that feeling too, and I hope I've done that, and that's my job. And again, not easy. You just definitely have to push yourself, but ultimately this is more than just yourself. If I show up to training and I don't want to train today, for example, which every player in this world has those days, but then I'm letting down maybe Michael, I'm letting down Roman, and that definitely has a chain effect. So you have to find that balance.
You did get some minutes this season early on, Leagues Cup against Vancouver. How was it to get onto the pitch?
No, great. First game I played against Union Omaha, solo crowd here in the stadium. Amazing. I mean, we couldn't believe it, because usually you watch these other games and it's a half full stadium. Some teams play even at a university field, which is sad. The US Open Cup is such a traditional cup here, and it should be a little bit more recognized. We show up here and we have a full house, which was amazing. So it was amazing to play here. We won, and then we had to go. We had to play a tough game, I believe on a Wednesday in between 2 games in Chicago. And that was also good. It was a tough game, I think, for the team. Road trip. I think we could have all played a little bit better. But, sometimes you also have to win those games. For me personally, I personally want to say I played a good game, but I made a bad mistake, which ultimately led to us losing that game 2-1. And that was tough because I would say every goalkeeper makes mistakes. Everybody in the league, whatever league it is. I just didn't have the opportunity to play 10, 15 good games to show everybody, hey, I'm a good goalkeeper. I just made a mistake in the second game, and obviously that hurt me personally a little bit, my confidence. And yeah, but that happens. You have to be then a professional goalkeeper and move on from that. And then I played in Columbus, Leagues Cup, also a tough game, by the way. We had a 4 or 5 hour rain delay in Columbus. Just for the team in general, a very difficult match. We almost got away with a 2-2 almost. We had a big chance at the end. And then obviously playing in Vancouver was pretty cool from the coaching staff, recognizing, saying, hey, Ben, you deserve this one. We give Roman a rest before the playoffs, before Seattle. And yeah, that was a good feeling playing. Playing is always cool.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that fans miss. I mean, we don't always look at players and think of them like they're people, and especially in sport, it takes a while to get a feel. Whether outfield players, they get the first 10 games of the season to warm into it. A goalkeeper, it's very a very individualistic position, and you have to warm into it. Like it's tough, right?
It's tough, and then obviously. Roman set the bar high very fast. Obviously we won our first 5 games. I don't really remember when that Chicago game was, but obviously Roman and the whole team set the bar very high. So going into the game, it's like, okay, I need to, and that's the level. And I feel like I've played well, just that little mistake. That was a little annoying. And obviously here in St. Louis, we have a great fan base, a very passionate fan base. But, I felt the heat a little bit, which is okay because we're professional soccer players. We're getting paid to play and perform. Just have to move on from a mistake and be yourself again the next day in training.
Sometimes best to turn the phone off, put it in a drawer.
Yeah, sometimes TV. Yes, sometimes. Some players even do it when they have a good game because they just don't want to see the good things because these people turn sometimes fast on you. It's just, that's what it is, and that's what you need sometimes. You also need maybe sometimes a wake-up call. When the wake-up call is coming from the fans, that's also not a bad thing. Ultimately, we definitely appreciate our fans. We want to play for them. We want to win for them. I'm pretty sure, I haven't heard any numbers, but I'm pretty sure we're going to have a lot of fans on Sunday in Kansas.
100%.
And we want to show up for them. So that's on our radar for sure.
That's great to know. What's been the most important thing that you've learned about yourself this season?
Yeah, honestly, I was never in that position where I wasn't playing. I always wanted to look, okay, if I'm not in a situation where I'm not playing, I want to play. I think this club has handled it really well for me because I got 4 games here with the first team, which is not bad, and I played some games in the second team, which also was important for me, just staying ready, staying warm. So that setup is really important for players like me that maybe don't play every single game, just to stay ready. That's a really good thing to have a second team as well, trying to help them out. And there's also pressure. There's also points on the line. You need to perform for them as well. And biggest thing I learned, just, sometimes even when you play, I've noticed that for myself too, when you're the guy and on a Tuesday or a Monday that you're playing on Saturday, maybe you don't push as hard. Maybe you taking mentally a day off here and there, or just don't try to push as hard. I just feel like I never intentionally had an off day. So, if you don't play, you don't want to have an off day. You just want to keep pushing, and that's something I learned about myself, and definitely also improved for myself.
Brilliant. You've kind of touched on it a little bit, but the last question that I put down is more of is there anything that you'd like to say to the fans?
Yeah, first of all, I love St. Louis. My wife loves St. Louis. We're very happy here. It's funny, I spent a summer in St. Louis in 2016. 2015. Sorry, 2015. It was a PDL PDL team here in St. Louis. And I must say, I didn't really like it. It was very hot, actually unbearably hot. It was something I've never experienced from Germany. The humidity. I didn't really go out. My mom, sent me screenshots every single time from areas to stay away from. So I was like a little bit afraid of St. Louis. And coming now to St. Louis, I really experienced the city, and I loved it. And my parents came to town, and they also loved it. We have experienced the city how you should, and it's a cool city. First of all, so I love St. Louis, and I also love the team. A lot of good people around this club. It's not just the 11 guys that start the game or finish the game. It's actually a club of a lot of good people and hardworking people and really good people in their in their field, a lot of quality. And you definitely always want to work with people that know what they're doing. And this club found people in every area that, have a high quality and just are good people to work with. So I like that. And so I'm excited for Sunday's game. And I personally believe we're not done yet. We have a lot to prove. Because ultimately also, a little bit insight for the fans, we had something to prove all season long, right? Nobody had us on the radar. So we've done it. We've proven everybody wrong for 34 games. So mentally a little bit from everybody, you're like, okay, we've done it now. And then you have to do it again in playoffs. So and that's just something hard, to flip the switch. So just to give the fans and people some insights, maybe why we lost the last couple of games, because it's just so hard to do. We came out, beat teams when nobody, believed in us, away games, home games, whatsoever. Now we just have to do it again, and we just in the process of realizing, okay, we have to prove people wrong again.
And you're all doing it for the first time. I think everybody needs to remember that you've done a fantastic job this season. We'll all be proud of you, whatever happens at the weekend. Ben, it's been incredible having you on the podcast. Thank you for being so open and sharing such amazing stories. And thank you for being a great pro all season.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite. A lot of fun.
Welcome. Hopefully you'll come back next season.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the City Voice. And remember, if you like this podcast, go and give us a 5-star review. And remember, we have new guests coming almost every week. Thank you for listening.